Picture this: 3 library staff members trapped inside the South Charleston Public Library. Aaron, Toby, and Josh, each with divergent tastes, tasked with watching each other's films. Can they survive with their sanity intact? Find out on Real Opposites, a library podcast about movies.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Real Opposites. I'm Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
And today we are alone. Toby is sick and could not record with us. So it will just be Josh and I, but Toby will join us back on the next episode.
Yeah.
So we're back to discuss Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
So Josh, why? Why did you pick that one?
So, I mean, like we all put 10 movies in the bucket or in our fancy movie generator thing.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much the only, superhero-y kind of action movie. Because I want to try to get a wide variety of movies. And of all of them, I thought this would be the most of interest to you.
Okay.
Because it is, I mean, it's long, so I know you wouldn't like that. But it is like it's a satire. It's kind of funny. It's very, it's very, dark kind of cliche, but it is dark. Like it's not. It takes itself seriously, but at the same time, it still is unapologetically a comic book. And I think it's a great adaptation of the novel, the graphic novel. And I think the casting's great. I think Snyder really nailed the look. I don't know. There's not really. I rewatched it actually like about a month or so ago. I think it just holds up brilliantly. I think it's just a lot of fun. It's like it's a meaty movie among superhero movies. There's a lot to talk about, I think.
Yeah.
And has one of my favorite sequences in any film, which is the Dr. Manhattan, like the creation of Dr. Manhattan sequence where he's narrating his origin more or less. And I've loved it ever since I saw it in theaters in the theatrical cut, which I remember you saw it also in theaters.
I did.
Not a fan in theaters there. And then they've done like subsequent. They did a director's cut when it came out on Blu-ray, and then later an ultimate cut, which incorporates more of the graphic novel, the animated Tales of the Black Freighter. I still prefer the director's cut, which is the one you watched.
Yes, that is the one I watched.
The animated stuff is really cool, but I think it gets in the way. And I kind of thought it kind of got in the way a little bit in the graphic novel as well.
Yeah.
But so those are my thoughts. I love it. It's one of my favorite comic book adaptations. So what do you think?
So I did, like you mentioned, I did see this in theaters when it came out. I don't remember why or with who. I'm assuming whoever I went with wanted to see it. I can't imagine I saw it and was like, ooh, I need to go see this. But was it done in 3D back then?
It was not.
It was not. Okay.
There was
some
not
of
a
the stuff
3D.
Looks like it was made for 3D.
There's Snyder he shoots a lot of slow motion to begin with. Like
so
he does a lot of ramping. No, I mean 3D this was kind of right before Avatar.
Yeah.
Really blew 3D up, and every movie had a 3D conversion.
Right.
It is. I mean, and now that you say it, like I've never really thought about it, but it would make a good 3D conversion. Like I could see this working pretty well in 3D. The opening where he throws the comedian out the window and like
that's exactly where I was like, oh, maybe this is 3D. That's why I was asking, is because I was like, oh, maybe this was recorded or not recorded, but maybe it was in theaters in 3D, and that is why I went, like early 3D. Oh, that's exciting. But if that's not it, then I don't know. It must have went with somebody that wanted to see it. Unless for some reason the preview really stuck out to me. I don't remember why I saw it, but I was definitely not a fan. I watched it as an adult because I was definitely younger then, and still not a fan. I do see the things that you thought I would like.
Yeah.
Some of the humor and just some of the stuff that makes up the movie, I do like.
Yeah.
The length kills me. But I feel like with any time a movie's long, or for the most part when a movie's that long, I feel like it's that long. Like it just felt stretched.
Okay.
But you can't deny that the movie is beautifully done, and the concept of, or the story, I guess I should say, of the Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
I like the story. It's just, I don't know. It's too long for me.
It's just too long.
and
Well,
you have to remember, I'm also not a big fan of action or superhero movies. So
yeah, and I mean, there's action in the movie.
mm-hmm.
Part of it almost feels like Snyder's like, oh, here's your action scene, like, because he's much more interested in
the rest of it,
the character dynamics and their relationships, and that's really the main appeal of the book as well. Was it was a comic book that wasn't as concerned with the big theatrics that we typically associate, with Superman or Batman or Spider-Man.
Right.
It was more interested. It kind of brought them down to our level, and like they have issues with their, with
parents.
Silk Spectre and Dr. Manhattan have, their relationship and parents, and the movie and the comic exist in this gray area. The comedian is he's not a great person. Like, he murders and rapes, and like, you still are empathetic towards him despite everything he does. A lot of that's, I think, because Jeffrey Dean Morgan is just naturally very charismatic in the role.
Yeah.
But the way it's written in the comic, like, he sees through how the whole world's a joke, and so he's just like a little, anarchist, I guess, and just does what he wants. But I think that's one of the things I like that they kept from the book, was just that it wasn't sugar coated.
I think because you did also give me the book, which we have here.
Yeah.
But I do have that checked out, and I did not read it beforehand. I think it is something that, because I'm interested enough in the story and the way there is character development, I think it's something I wouldn't mind to try to read. We'll see if it happens.
Okay.
But I like that there is that. It's not just pure action. There is the character development, and that's the parts I did like.
Yeah.
Although the scene where they are breaking, is it Rorschach?
Rorschach. Like,
out of jail?
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool scene. Just the
that's like the most blatantly action part of the movie. There's just like extended long hallway fight sequence.
It is, but
it's also like intercut. It's intercut with like Rorschach and the little guy trying to kill him, and he cuts the guy's arms off.
It's the other guy on the toilet.
Yeah. It's intercut with all these little bits of like humor and
and like the gore is perfect for it. It's a little extra bloody because it is a graphic novel, but it's not overdone.
I feel like if you exploded someone, every particle in their body, that's probably what would happen.
Right, that's true.
Explode in a big cloud of goo.
Yeah.
So this one's like 20. I think it's about 20 minutes longer than the version you saw in theaters.
Oh, okay.
But the main thing it adds is, I think it is the best version of the movie. It adds the Hollis Mason sequence, where he gets killed by the gang.
Yes.
Like, that's not in the theatrical cut. There's a lot of little additions, but that's one of the really big ones.
Like I said, the movie is beautifully done, and the flashbacks and things they really add to the movie, and I like the way they're done. You definitely know it's a flashback. You're not confused by it.
Yeah,
it's not overdone. It actually fits into the story and gives you background, but it's also like quick snippets. It's not.
It is, and like
usually like a huge long sequence. They're like quicker snippets.
Yeah, I mean, you get them mostly like when they're burying the comedian. Like, they kind of you get each character's moment, like with the comedian, like to highlight a different aspect, to tell the story of what happened, like how they ended up here, who the comedian is, and so I love alternate histories. And this is Nixon wins. What is he? 4 or 5 terms.
Yeah.
And I just think that's really cool, just to see like a alternate universe where the Vietnam War ends because of Dr. Manhattan, and
Right.
I think it's just that's just very appealing to me.
Which they also, all the flags in the film have 51 stars because in its alternate history, Vietnam became a 51st state.
Oh,
After America won the Vietnam War.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I had seen that.
That'd be a hard one to like go on a road trip.
Right.
To Vietnam.
Right. Let's see all the 51 states. Vietnam.
Yes. Speaking of the graphic novel, the main, like if you do read it, the main difference between the two is instead of, I honestly like the movie version better.
Okay.
Where Ozymandias is using Dr. Manhattan as a deterrent, and he actually he sets off the nuke in New York, or whatever the device he's created. That's basically,
right.
I mean, it's basically a nuke.
Yeah.
And in the original book, it is a giant squid, space squid.
Yeah, I read something about that.
I mean, it's cool.
Like aliens are attacking.
Yeah. So he uses that as the deterrent, and then like he if I remember, he kills the squid or whatever.
Right.
And I like this version better because that never sat well with me in the original comic. But I also like that this keeps the focus on the group, like on Manhattan. It keeps the focus on a character as opposed to some other external device.
Yeah.
Where and it puts Manhattan in a difficult situation, and also it's just easier. I mean, I understand why he did it just from an economical standpoint of making the movie. Like, it's kind of hard to just like
create a squid.
We got to just you introduce the giant squid,
right?
And
that's
squid.
what I was going to say. I feel like that also. A squid works better in a graphic novel than it does in a movie.
Now later they did a TV show, which is not a sequel to the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It is a sequel to the comic book,
but
in television form. It's pretty good, and they do use the squid.
Oh, okay.
Jeremy Irons plays an older Ozymandias, and they do use the squid in that. So it's like, yeah, I guess this kind of would work.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's also like I don't know, an 8-hour TV show. It's easier you get more time.
Right. I thought I had seen something about a TV show once, and I remember thinking, that's not for me.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I did enjoy it. It took me a while to get into it, but I did end up enjoying it quite a bit. I think.
However, I might enjoy it more. As
you might really dig it.
I'm weird about that.
I mean, I think in general, like you wouldn't really miss, like if you never read the comic. And you just went into the series, you probably wouldn't miss much,
right?
Because now you know about squid, so
yeah. And
that's the only real thing I think you would need to know. It's not like in the movie. Like so, I love Zack Snyder. He made this right after 300. This was his. So typically, like when directors have a hit movie, like a surprise hit, like 300, which is huge, and so pretty much. When that happens, the director gets carte blanche on their next movie.
I liked 300. So
really, you like 300?
I mean, for what it was, yeah.
That's surprising. That movie's like all action.
Sparta. I don't know. I mean, yeah.
That would be like the last movie I think you would like.
I think I remember liking it.
Okay.
So I mean, it's probably I've only ever seen it once and probably won't ever see it again. But I think at the time it was just different and
at the time that was very
it was just
like it was it was coming on the heels of Sin City, which was another Frank Miller adaptation,
which I also liked.
Yeah, and it uses a similar process where they're largely on a stage and everything it's very heightened, clearly. To make it feel like a comic book, and I'm glad he didn't do Watchmen that way. I'm glad that there's like actual sets, and they do some location work, and it's not trying to do the whole Sin City 300 style.
I don't think that would have worked as well.
Yeah, because it's just those are very contained,
right?
Stories like they largely, Sin City is just so stylized, and then 300 largely takes place just in a few key locations.
Yeah.
But this is, in Vietnam and in space and
Right.
in all these different places. And I love his the musical choices. Like similar to Dawn of the Dead, like he knows how to like pick the right song for the right moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love that he's got, I think, Unforgettable, the Nat King Cole.
Yeah.
At the start when comedians fighting whoever is trying to kill him.
Right.
And then the Bob Dylan on the opening titles, and then that's one of my favorite opening titles ever. I love that. It just tells you everything. That's what an opening title should do. It informs you about the film. It's very visually arresting, and it's a perfect marriage of image and music.
Right.
And then later he's got Jimi Hendrix and Janis and.
The one thing I did enjoy, which is the scene I hated the most back in the day. Not so much I enjoyed the scene, but I enjoyed the music choice for the scene where they're having coitus in the spaceship. And for me, it always felt so random. I mean, I get where it fits into the story, but it is a long scene. And I think that's what it was for me. I'm just like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
It's a little funny, though, at
the
same time. But the song, which I'm blanking on right now.
Hallelujah.
Yes. I actually love
Leonard
the
Cohen.
pairing of that with the scene. Yeah. I think that was a perfect choice.
I think it's brilliant.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I did find that scene to be more entertaining
now
than I did. I still think it's random and maybe not as needed, but it is.
Oh no,
I
think
necessary to the story.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that their whole story's been building to that moment.
Right.
It
is.
I love that. So this is one of the things I love about Snyder is he like Alan Moore and the original book is he takes the superheroes and he can simultaneously make them gods and then bring them down to our level and like balance those really well because it's like, well, yeah. Superheroes have sex.
Right.
Superheroes get horny. Superheroes want the things that we all want.
Right. They're human.
And I love that, them going, like, it's not to be able to have sex, like, they need to get in costume and go out and rescue some people. And then it's just like, it's on.
Right.
That's what gets them up.
And I guess that makes sense. I think it was just that it was like they're fighting and then all of a sudden they're not. But as an adult, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
So it's not as out of place. But yeah, I was surprised that I was more entertained by that due to the music and some of the other funny stuff like the fire shooting at the end.
Yeah.
Just the little stuff like that. I was more entertained by this time.
Okay.
And I could. Like looking back, and I think I mentioned it when we mentioned this movie, maybe not on the podcast, but that was like the scene that I could remember that I absolutely hated.
He was like, "Get me out of here!"
Yeah. So it was kind of cool to see it in a different light, and really appreciate the music selection because it was great.
Yeah, yourself, 15 years later, do you have like a favorite character or sequence that you like?
I don't know. I don't know that I have a favorite character. I feel like all the characters were well casted. Like I believed everybody as their character.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I latched onto one single character. So I like that sequence when the guy starts shooting and it's kind of slow-mo but not slow-mo. Like it is, but it's not horribly slow-mo. But you see like the woman gets shot in the knee, and the woman's fingers get shot off.
And one guy gets shot right in the middle of the glasses.
Yeah.
Those little details.
Yeah, and I liked that about it. I did like the way that was done.
Yeah.
So I think other than the jail outbreak, I enjoyed that. But yeah, that I really like that. I like the way it was done, where it was just up and close. Yet you also had him moving in the background.
Yeah.
Not getting shot. I like that one.
I've already said I love the Dr. Manhattan sequence. That's one of my favorite sequences in any movie.
Yeah.
It's almost just like this little self-contained, like 10-minute short film. And I love the comedian. Those are the two characters that appeal most to me.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think as I get older, because I liked the movie a lot when I first saw it, but I think it's gotten better. And the thing I was kind of hoping that you would latch onto is like the more satirical nature of the film, like kind of like Paul Verhoeven, like RoboCop. I really enjoy that aspect, like the alternate history. There's some tongue-in-cheek moments where he's simultaneously like you're still invested in it, but you can also kind of cleverly break the fourth wall a little bit and wink at the audience. And I feel like that's really hard to do, and it really doesn't get done very effectively anymore.
And that is one thing I did latch onto that, and I did like that part of it. That for me, that's part of where I say the story is good. And I would go back and say Manhattan. I think his view on the world and how his view changed, from before and after. And I did enjoy seeing that, and so. Maybe he would be my favorite.
Okay.
Other than him being nude all the time.
Yeah.
But even that didn't bother me as much this time.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I'm happy about that.
I think maybe I just only looked at his face and just pretended it wasn't happening. I don't know.
My eyes are up here, Aaron.
No, but I did notice it didn't bother me as much as it did.
Yeah.
When I was younger.
Well, I think you probably just matured a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably. I wouldn't say much, but maybe
enough to be like, yeah,
2%.
There's a blue dong. That's good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I remember that being such a big deal.
Yeah.
When the movie came out, because for one thing, I remember going to see it opening night, and there was a lot of parents that brought their kids.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, wow, you guys didn't see the rating, and you didn't had no idea what Watchmen is.
That a little bit.
Because it did really well in its opening weekend. Because I think this is kind of not quite at the height of the superhero craze, but by this point you'd had like Dark Knight, the Batman Begins, the X-Men movies, Spider-Man, so people were like, oh yeah, it's a superhero movie, we'll take the kids, and it's art, it's probably gonna be like The Matrix or something, it'll be fine.
Right.
It's like, no, there's full nudity, there is a lot of graphic violence, which I'm all for. Like, show them as early as you can.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's the world. I don't know. That's the world. Like it's, and I take more of, I guess, like a European stance on this. Like, I find the violence much more upsetting than nudity. Like nudity, like we all have gear one way or the other. Like, just deal with it. But like, what's crazy, what it kills me is like you get in a PG-13 movie, there'll be a shootout, and like 50 people die, but hey, we didn't show any blood, so it's fine. We can get away with that in PG-13. It's like, no, that's still that's desensitizing.
That's what
that's desensitizing people to be like, oh, if you shoot people, it's fine, and nothing happens. Just a little hole.
Yeah,
and that's what I like about stuff like this, or RoboCop, for instance, is like the violence, like you feel it. It's visceral.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorites is the girl in Vietnam that's coming up to the comedian with his baby. Like he had sex with her, and now she's pregnant, I think, and he kills her.
Right.
And they don't make one of our main heroes just killed a pregnant woman.
Right.
And I just love that whole interchange with him and Manhattan too, where he's like, you could have stopped this, you could have atomized the bullets, and you did not do it.
Yeah.
And he's like Dr. Manhattan, you're like, you're losing it. That's one of the interchanges that I really that sticks with me. Because I mean, I think those are the two most fascinating characters in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think those are the two most well cast. I mean, I love Rorschach. He's kind of the face of Watchmen.
Yeah, that is true.
And he is like the audience surrogate, which I kind of like that some, that they didn't sugarcoat him either.
Right.
I honestly feel like you couldn't even make this movie now. Like, because he's very, very homophobic. He's very not I don't think terribly racist, but like he's very like very far. He's very offensive,
right?
To a lot of people.
Yeah,
And I like that they didn't sugarcoat that.
yeah,
That's who it is, and I mean that's part of the problem I have with modern movies is like we're trying not to offend people, but if you don't offend people, then you're not provoking them. Then you're not asking them to think or to empathize
right,
with someone who's not like just a boring vanilla character.
right.
And that's one of the things I appreciate most. Rewatching it recently was it was just felt like a breath of fresh air. That's the thing I love most about Snyder movies, is superhero movies especially, is that there's no clear cut answers. Like he puts the characters in difficult situations, and they have to make a difficult choice. He works best as a deconstructionist. When I think Watchmen, the great thing, I mean, he later did Batman v Superman, but that's basically a Watchmen movie, just with Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, because he's just tearing these characters apart. I think that's what he's best at.
Yeah.
And then putting them back together and seeing, how they function together and separately, and what's going on inside. So I think that's what I appreciate most about the movie.
I do appreciate the way the superheroes, like we've said previously, they are brought down to a human level, and they do have to make decisions that make the audience think, that engage them,
make them uncomfortable,
and make you a little uncomfortable, and that's life. So
yeah, I mean,
and that's why I like sometimes, which I know you weren't a fan of, but movies like August Osage County or family-related movies, because it brings real issues that people do have, and it's a little uncomfortable.
It is,
but
yeah.
that is, for me, interesting.
But I love that when a movie or show, I mean, that's good art, is when it's prodding you, like it's
right,
feel something different.
Right.
What do you feel about this?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're just placating people, and then that's fine every once in a while, like to just watch a dumb movie.
Yeah.
But like when I go to the movies, I want to feel something. When I watch something, I want to feel something unusual and unexpected, and be surprised. And Watchmen did that for me.
On the same level, last night when I finished watching Watchmen, I decided to rewatch a TV show I really loved, which was Shonda Rhimes' Scandal.
Okay.
I'm sure you probably
I've
haven't
heard of it,
seen
yeah.
But
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. But Kerry Washington, right?
Yes, and she's amazing. And the guy, I can't think of his name. He was in Ghost, and he was
Tony Goldwyn.
Yeah, and he was.
Is he the president in that show?
Yeah, he's the president.
And
he was also in that movie that I had us watch, the horror movie where they're stuck in the office building.
Oh, the Belko.
Yes,
Experiment?
Belko
Yeah, he's in that. I like him. He's a good actor.
Yeah,
I always think of. I think he almost for a while he got typecast as the guy from Ghost.
Yeah,
you're just like, ugh, that guy.
but the thing about, I mean, it has a great cast, but the thing about it is that I noticed as well, maybe because I just finished that movie, that it does that same thing. It makes you think, because they come up with a lot of like situations that maybe it's not the moral way to go, but they have to go that way. I don't know. It just it makes you think, what would you do if you were in that situation?
Yeah.
And I noticed that last night after watching The Watchmen, and I don't know that I noticed it as much the first time I watched it, which it's also been a few years.
Yeah.
So, I've gotten older, but I think it also was where I had finished The Watchmen that did make you think. So I don't know. I thought that was neat that it even I noticed something different in a TV show. Also,
that's cool.
So far, it's still an amazing show. I didn't notice this in the movie, but Dr. Manhattan, who is nude the whole time, is also the only one who never uses curse words at all.
Yeah. No, I never noticed that. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, if you think back, it does. He doesn't, but I don't know. I just think, one, that's interesting, because I mean, I guess it's not a big deal that he's also the nude one, but I don't know. You just think if he's nude, he'd also be cussing, I guess.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm just desensitized, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think many of the heroes use much like coarse language.
I don't know. The trivia says he's the only one that does.
No,
that,
I'm sure he is.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's like of abundance.
Yeah, which is I think part
like
of it's
different than Scarface for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not Scarface. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that might be because it's taken from the comic, a lot of the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing about the comic, like, I guess at that point, you could put a nude Dr. Manhattan, but you can't say the F word.
Right. And that goes back to what you said about like violence. You can get a lower rating in your movie by just not having much blood, but you can kill 200 people.
Yeah.
But you have a nude person on the screen, or there's a little bit of blood that makes it realistic, and that gets a higher rating, although that's the more realistic option. And these movies
I mean,
are desensitizing people to death without showing realistic.
Yeah, I mean, there's no consequences,
Right?
And I think that's like just in general, like movies are just more neutered, and like the R rating has become almost might as well be X rated,
right?
For the studios, like because they're just like, oh, we need to get the most people, we need to get the most butts in the seats, and PG-13,
Yeah, and but that's what I'm saying is it's so almost backward.
It is
in a way, just like you were saying. You could have nudity in the comic back then, but you couldn't have curse words. And it's like, what? I mean, same as our ratings. It's just, and I think that's why we don't get R-rated movies, which I would prefer, because it adds a depth that you can't add in a PG-13 movie.
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, there's every once in a while there's like a PG-13 movie that will kind of really push it. Like the Dark Knight's a great example. Like that's a really intense movie, and it doesn't really pull any punches.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like people aren't getting mowed down in that movie.
Right.
I feel like if you took John Wick and you just took some of the blood splatter out, it would be PG-13. Like that. That would be your PG-13 movie. That's your Fast and the Furious, where people are just dying left and right.
Which I still wouldn't want to watch it.
No.
I saw John Wick 4. So.
Yeah. By far the worst one. And I don't know. Movies just had more guts back then, literally and figuratively.
But I think Watchmen does a good job as a movie, and especially at the time it was in, to bring the realistic part to it, and also that human part. It was fine with nudity. It was fine with cursing.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't overdone.
I think it's some sort of miracle that we ended up getting the Watchmen movie that we did.
Yes,
because I mean, that I think because they trusted him, because 300 was such a huge success, and that was rated R, and that was a comic book. So they're like, okay, we'll let you do this. Like I said, I think it's just a miracle that this movie got made the way it did with the cast, and I think it was just a perfect time. It's the right time. Both culturally and where the genre cinema was at the time, and the state of the technology of making movies. Because I think this was still shot on film; it wasn't digital. It has just this this texture that is kind of lost anymore. God, I'm talking like the movie's 50 years old. It's just 15 years old, but so much has changed.
Right.
Like when this came out, like it was like the birth of like nerd culture starting to become mainstream with all the superhero movies. But I mean, now it is. This is my favorite version of the Watchmen, even more so than the comic.
Yeah.
Which I still really love, but I don't know. I just I dig the style. I dig what it says about the comic books, the political landscape, society. Like just human nature. I think it really speaks on a sort of elemental level to what we go through. Yeah. And I love it.
So obviously, you definitely love it.
Yeah.
Where does this fall on like your top movies list?
It's like outside the top 100.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like somewhere in the between 100 and 150. I have to look at my Letterboxd.
Yeah. I was just curious. That was a me kind of question.
Yeah, no.
But you do love it.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of movies I love.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I see a lot of the stuff you thought I would enjoy, and I do like that part of it, the story part of it, and the humanization of the characters and some of the music choices for sure.
Yeah.
I hope to never see it again. I didn't like it the first time watching it, and I didn't like it the second time watching it. I definitely could appreciate it more.
Well, that's important.
That's
important.
Yeah, I feel like that. I have liked watching some, and I think some of the movies I put into the wonderful generator that we have of movie selection. I think some of those are movies that I watched when I was younger, and I'm excited to watch them again with new eyes almost.
Oh, no, that's...
and I think that's a neat thing to do. And like I said, I still wouldn't recommend it to someone like me.
Yeah.
If you like long movies and superheroes and action, this is a great movie. If you're me and you'd prefer a Zac Efron movie, in like an hour to hour and 30 minutes, this is not for you.
I like that you're talking to someone over here that's not me. Like this figurative person sitting next to me. That's where your eyes are going.
I know. I don't know what was happening.
You're imagining this person.
It was the audience. The audience. We're live right now. We're not, but I guess my eyes thought we were. I noticed I was doing that right as you were about to say it. But yeah, I just think, I mean, like I said, I don't think it's a horrible movie.
Yeah. Just not your cup of tea.
It's not my cup of tea, and I hope to never see it again.
One of the things I like so much, it's so much fun, is what I'm enjoying with the kids is showing them, watching a movie with someone that you love, with someone who's never seen it.
Oh, yeah.
It is like watching it for the first time.
Yes.
And even though, it's be something like I showed them Superman, I've seen that, I don't know, hundreds of times. And it was there was a part of me that was like, I don't know what it is. That's the hardest thing to explain. I know every line, I know every cut, and yet it feels like I'm watching it for like I'm a kid watching it for the first time with adult eyes.
Well, I think it's because you get to see it through other people's eyes as well. You're getting to see their reactions and how they react to certain things that maybe you react differently.
Yeah, I mean, it is that's a big part of it. But there's also there's just something kind of magical about you're just sitting with someone,
right?
And it's one of the things I love about movies is how they allow you to empathize both with people on screen and the people sitting next to you, because you go into a dark place with strangers and you're sitting and watching a screen.
Yeah.
And it's like there's this like, I'm not gonna like try to get too weird, but like this kind of like psychic link almost between people where you're just like you're feeling the energy.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you go to like a opening night in a big movie, like there's nothing like that.
Right.
And the same thing goes for showing a movie you've seen a ton to someone new who's never seen it. That's just always one of the best things about movies.
Yeah, and I mean I agree with that. One, even though we're not watching them together, when we come onto the podcast and we talk about them, there's been a lot of times where I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. That makes it different.
Me too.
So I think that's interesting to be able to talk to people about it as well. And then, I love going to the movies, weirdly. Love to go see the movies. And I think it's that. You get that energy. You go to the movies, and like you said, it's an experience. You are feeling the energy coming off of everybody else. And it can make or break the movie sometimes.
So that's Watchmen.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching it. Again.
Yeah, thanks for making me watch another 3-hour-long movie.
But hey, I think we got a good podcast out of it.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
I guess it's that time.
It's that time. Do you want me to
You
draw?
can draw. I drew last time. Or, I mean, I generated.
You generated the movie.
Last time. You can generate it.
It's Toby's choice. It's The Tale of Two Sisters, which you've actually seen, right? Korean movie?
That's mine.
Oh, is that yours?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was Toby's.
Woo!
Aaron got a pick.
I got a pick. Tale of Two Sisters. Yes, I love that movie. And
Aaron picked a foreign film.
Yeah.
But I have seen this.
Yeah.
But I think it's like 20 years old this year, actually.
Oh,
I want to say it's like 2003, 2004.
Yeah, I think so.
And I remember buying the DVD, and I remember enjoying it. I don't remember much about it though.
Yeah, I can remember the movie. It's been forever since I've seen it, so I'm excited to watch it again.
Cool.
I originally saw it because I had a Blockbuster used to do a summer pass for kids, and it was like so much a month, like $10 or something. It was cheap.
That's not bad.
And you could rent one movie a day. So you had to go back every day to get a new one.
It's like Movie Pass for Blockbuster.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was.
That's
well
a great
worth
deal.
It. I watched so many movies. That summer.
That's a great deal.
You couldn't get new movies, so in my Blockbuster,
you
couldn't buy any. You couldn't rent anything off the wall. You could only rent out of the middle.
Okay,
but this is one of the ones that I got to see because of that.
That's cool.
So I'm excited to see it again.
Man, I miss video stores.
I know, me too, so much.
Well, awesome. I'm glad we got one of your picks coming up, and
Woo.
I'm excited to watch that again. It's been a long time.
I can't remember if Toby has seen it or not, but I'm thinking
I think she has.
So it might be one that we've all seen, but it'll be interesting, I think, to talk about. Join us next time as we talk about my pick, The Tale of Two Sisters. But until then, I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And Toby's not here, but we are the real opposites.